I'm Lena, and I suppose I've always been the kind of woman who notices the quiet moments, the way sunlight spills through a diner window, or how a song on the radio can pull you back to a memory you thought you'd forgotten. At 30, I've learned life doesn't always hand you the story you expect, but sometimes it gives you something better. This is the story of how I found love in a way I never planned, with a man named Jack, who is 33 and carried a heart as steady as the autumn leaves falling outside my office window. It's a story of warmth, of connection, and yes, of choices that weren't simple but felt right in the deepest parts of me. It was late summer, just a couple of years ago, in a small Virginia town where the air smelled of honeysuckle and the days stretched long and golden. I worked at a local accounting firm, a place where the hum of computers and the soft clink of coffee mugs made up the rhythm of our days. Jack was my colleague, a man with kind brown eyes and a laugh that felt like a warm blanket on a chilly evening. He'd been there a year longer than me, always ready with a quick joke or a steady hand to help with a tricky spreadsheet. We weren't close at first, just two people sharing a break room, swapping stories about weekend hikes or the best burger joint in town. But there was something about him, a quiet strength, a way of listening that made you feel seen. I was married then, to a man named Tom. He was a good man, or at least I thought so for a long time. We'd been together since college, building a life that looked perfect on the outside Sunday barbecues, a little house with a porch swing, plans for kids someday. But somewhere along the way, the warmth had faded. Tom's late nights at the office turned into excuses, and I found myself alone with my thoughts more often than I liked. I'd lie awake, wondering when we'd stop talking about the things that mattered, when love had become a habit instead of a fire. Jack noticed, I think, before I even admitted it to myself. He'd catch my eye during a meeting, offering a small smile when I seemed lost in thought. One afternoon, as the office emptied out and the sky turned a soft pink, I stayed late to finish a report. Jack was there too, his desk lamp casting a warm glow over his face. He looked up and said, "Lena, you ever feel like you're running in place?" His voice was gentle, like he was testing the waters. I laughed, a little nervous, but his words hit something deep. "All the time," I said, and we started talking, really talking. About dreams we'd had as kids, about the way life twists and turns until you're not sure where you're headed. He told me about his dad, a man who'd worked the same factory job for 40 years. Always saying, "Son, find what makes your heart sing, even if it scares you." Those words stuck with me. Like a song you can't shake. That conversation was the beginning. Over the next few weeks, Jack and I found excuses to stay late, to grab coffee at the diner down the street, to share stories that felt too big for the daylight. I told him about my childhood summers, running through sprinklers with my sister, and he shared memories of fishing with his dad on a quiet lake, the world so still you could hear the water ripple. We were careful, never crossing a line, but there was a pull between us, a warmth that grew with every glance, every laugh. One evening, after a long day, we were alone in the office again. The air was heavy with the scent of rain coming, and the windows were open, letting in a cool breeze. I was tired not just from work, but from carrying the weight of a marriage that felt like a shadow of itself. Jack was packing up his bag, but he paused, looking at me with those steady eyes. "Lena," he said, his voice low, "you deserve to feel alive." I froze, my heart pounding. I knew what he meant, and it scared me as much as it thrilled me. I thought of Tom, of the vows I'd made, of the life I was supposed to want. But I also thought of the way Jack's presence made me feel like I was waking up after a long sleep. I took a breath, and before I could stop myself, I said, "Jack, what if we found a way to be close, just you and me, without anyone knowing? Something that's ours." He looked at me, not judging, just listening. I felt my cheeks burn as I stumbled over my words. I mean, something intimate, something real, but discreet. So Tom doesn't find out. I couldn't believe I'd said it, but there it was, raw and honest. I was asking for something forbidden, something that would belong only to us. Jack didn't answer right away. He stepped closer, his hand brushing mine, and I felt a spark that made my breath catch. "Lena," he said softly, "I've wanted you for months. But this, it's big. Are you sure?" His voice was calm, but there was a fire in his eyes, a longing that mirrored my own. I nodded, my heart racing. "I'm sure." What followed wasn't just about the physical, though that was part of it, a deep, tender connection that felt like a secret language between us. We were careful, meeting in quiet corners of the world, a motel outside town where the neon sign flickered, a secluded spot by the river where the stars felt close enough to touch. Each time, it was more than desire. It was a sharing of souls, a way of saying, "I see you, and you're enough." Jack's touch was gentle, deliberate, like he was memorizing every moment. He'd whisper my name, and it felt like a promise. We explored each other in ways that felt new and sacred, moments of passion that were as much about trust as they were about need. There was a night by the river, the water reflecting the moon, where we lay together on a blanket, our bodies close, our breaths mingling. It wasn't just about the act. It was about being fully present, fully alive. He'd hold me after, his fingers tracing patterns on my skin, and we'd talk about life, about the way love can surprise you, about how sometimes the heart knows things the mind takes longer to accept, but it wasn't all stolen moments and whispered secrets. There were nights when guilt crept in, when I'd look at Tom across the dinner table and wonder what I was doing. Jack felt it too, I know. He'd talk about his dad's words, about finding what makes your heart sing, but also about doing right by others. "Lena," he said one evening as we sat in his truck, the radio playing an old country song, "I don't want to hurt anyone. But I can't stop feeling this. Can you?" I couldn't, and so we kept going, balancing on the edge of something beautiful and dangerous. I started to see life differently, to notice the small things again, the way the leaves turned gold in September, the smell of fresh coffee in the morning. Jack taught me that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice to show up, to be vulnerable, to let someone in even when it's messy. One night, as we lay together in that motel room, the curtains fluttering in the breeze, I told him about my grandmother. She used to say, "Lena, life's too short to live half awake. Grab the moments that make you feel whole." I realized that's what Jack was to me, a moment that made me feel whole. He kissed my forehead and said, "I want all your moments, Lena, not just these." That was when I knew I had to make a choice. I couldn't keep living in two worlds, one with Tom and one with Jack. It wasn't fair to anyone, least of all myself. The next week, I sat Tom down and told him the truth, not about Jack, but about us. I said we'd lost our way, that I wasn't happy, that I needed to let go. It was the hardest conversation I'd ever had, but it was honest. Tom was hurt, but he admitted he'd felt the distance too. We parted with kindness, with tears, but with a strange sense of peace. Jack and I didn't rush into anything after that. We took our time, letting our connection grow in the open, no longer hidden. We'd walk through town, holding hands, laughing at the way life had brought us together. There were moments of doubt, of course nights when I wondered if I'd made the right choice, if love could really be this simple. But Jack was there, steady as ever, reminding me that love doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Now, as I look back, I think about what my grandmother said, about grabbing the moments that make you feel whole. Jack and I are still finding those moments, cooking dinner together, dancing to an old record in the living room, making love with the kind of intimacy that comes from knowing someone completely. I'm 32 now, and I've learned that life doesn't give you a roadmap. You stumble, you choose, you love. And sometimes, the choices that scare you most are the ones that lead you home. Jack's dad was right, find what makes your heart sing. For me, that's Jack, with his quiet strength and his way of making every moment feel like it matters. We're not perfect, but we're honest, and that's enough. As I sit here, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, I know I'm exactly where I'm meant to be, loved, alive, and whole.